Iran says it's ready to restart its nuclear program, quote, within hours if the U.S. imposes more sanctions. President Rouhani issuing the warning, claiming the U.S. is ignoring international agreements. President Trump last month signed new sanctions into law targeting Iran's missile programs and its human rights abuses. The president has said Iran is not living up to the spirit of the nuclear deal brokered by President Obama. Our next guest says the nuclear deal is already broken, and Iran is also helping to fuel the crisis with North Korea. We are joined by retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He's now a senior fellow with the London Center for Policy.
Hey, David.
How are you, Colonel? Let me just go back to what Iran got from the United States when President Obama brokered the deal. They got the release of hundreds of billions of dollars in oil revenue over time. I mean, that was the big kahuna.
Huge.
And that gave them a standing in world power far beyond what they should have. They got cash payoffs. Remember those cash payoffs from President Obama? A lot of people say it was
airplanes full of cash.
Airplanes full of cash. And they actually got, this is extraordinary, we, the United States taxpayers, are subsidizing Iran's nuclear operations.
That's right.
By purchasing heavy water, which is a nuclear component. Am I leaving anything out?
Well, those are the big pieces which are the most important. I think, in addition to that, David, we should add to the fact that with all this returned revenue, they're both plussing up their defense budget by, I think, something like $800 million, if not more. And the most important thing to the overall narrative is they're helping fund the North Koreans' continued research in both miniaturization of nuclear weapons as well as ballistic missile technology. So they found this, and this is why I think President Trump is saying about them not living up to the spirit. They're outsourcing their research, David, to the North Koreans. People have speculated, why on earth has North Korea been able to move more rapidly forward with their programs over the past year? Well, it's because of all the infusion of the money from the Iranians.
All the infusion of the money and the technology. And let me just add one thing, because I think it's important for historical purposes to remember what happened. This is a deal, and as you just outlined, it looks like we are empowering Iran, not only financially, but also in their nuclear development. And remember, there was a theory in the Obama administration by President Obama and a lot of people who worked for him that we had to empower Iran. That was the only way that we would get them to modernize, that if we opened them up to the world, if they had more money, and perhaps even if they became a nuclear power, they would be more modern and more open to our philosophical ideals. I think that was behind what was going on, don't you?
Oh, it goes back to Zbigniew Brzezinski and the Carter administration, believe it or not, back to the 70s. It was that basic flawed thinking that's driven them. But let's be clear on this. All it's done is embolden them to become more troublesome to the Arab allies we have in the region. They've gone into Yemen to try to destabilize. They did destabilize that government. They're doing things all across the globe with Hezbollah, with the IRGC to essentially put forth this Shia view of the world, and most importantly, they're actually funding the North Korean issue, helping them develop things that we are all now directly concerned about by the fact you have the North Koreans directly threatening U.S. territory in the form of Guam. This is no small issue, and yes, David, we help fund this.
They are funding North Korea. I mean, we helped give them the money with which they now
we are funding our own enemies.
North Korea, and North Korea, we must assume, is sharing some of their nuclear technology with Iran, and I'm wondering if any of that could get in the hands of terrorists, which, as you mentioned correctly, the Iranian government is helping to sponsor.
Yeah, now that's one of the biggest concerns we have. With miniaturization, David, also comes the ability not only to put it on top of a ballistic missile, but put it into a small container. We're talking about, and this is not classified, I've been on red teams, we've looked at this, you could put one of these small aperture weapons, David, into something the size of a refrigerator and put it on a pleasure craft and send it in via asymmetric methodology by a terrorist group. So this is no small issue. This is why we're very concerned not only about the technical aspects of the miniaturization, but the willingness to do something. I don't believe for a minute the North Koreans and are crazy. They are very sane. It's just they're very problematic. They want to do things to damage us, and they've been told now you can't do it directly, so they may well find a different methodology, and partnering with the Iranians is clearly an option for them.
Colonel, we only have about 20 seconds, but is North Korea going to play nice now that China apparently called them and told them to cut off the threats against the United States?
The most underreported element of the whole Korean situation was China saying, North Korea, you attack the U.S., you're on your own. That's huge, and that opens the door for us to do a number of things should we be attacked. So no, I don't think they're going to play nice, but I don't think they're going to attack either.